Good morning.
Good
We are
morning.
with Lisa Vincenti from Sensory Revolution. This is Dr. Sally Good, Good Body, Good Brain, and we're going to be sharing lots of really great techniques and things about breath work and also the journey of self care. So, Lisa, could you start by telling us exactly what is Sensory Revolution anyway?
Sure. Sensory Revolution is an opportunity to explore humanely wild products, services, and ideas. It stemmed from, so I began as a child with surgeries and got lots of experience exploring how to be
Mm-hmm.
myself with my augmented body. And
Right.
then I became a massage therapist. And I realized that I wanted to send people away with more than just the bodywork experience. I wanted them to have some coaching and have some products that we use during session that they could take home with them. And that is
Mm-hmm.
how the product line came to be. And we are in the process of creating some awesome courses now. And I'm really excited about what the future brings.
Oh, that's very exciting. And I know you use the products and techniques on you.
I have used them on me and
Mhm.
hundreds, if not thousands, of clients. Yes.
Wonderful. And just from your own personal perspective, what technique or products do you think has been most helpful with you with like this journey with the medical community and having to deal with multiple interventions, medical interventions?
Well, the first product line that was created was aromatherapy, and they're all anti pain, anti-depression formulas. And
Hmm.
unisex and designed to be good to inhale as well as put on your body. So
Hmm.
I love using them as a state changer. I love using them as a skin tool. So
Hmm.
rubbing them into your skin, you know, you're absorbing chemicals through your body, and
Hmm.
you are saying hello to nature through this.
Mm.
One of my jokes is that my job is to ensure that your inner brain knows that you live in a fantastic neighborhood from the hunter gatherer level. So whatever we're putting on our
Oh, I
body,
love it.
whatever we're putting in our body, it
Yeah.
should be at a
Mhm.
quality that our body goes, wow, you really found a great place to live. And then, we get
Yes,
caught
and
up in modern,
yes,
yeah, what were we going to say?
and you are the host. You're the
Yeah.
host for so many environments on your body, in your body, and how we show up for our body really makes a huge difference in our current health and also our long-term health.
Without a doubt. And so that is one of the things that, so we're not just telling our computer, we're telling our biome, our,
Mhm.
I call them the aliens. So we have 50 trillion cells about, and we have
Mhm.
450 trillion aliens that we're running around
Mhm.
with. Some of them are our best friends. We can't live without them. Some of them are
Mhm.
neutral, and some of
Mhm.
them are waiting for squatters' rights to use our body if we have given up on it in some small, important way. And they say, "Oh, good, I get to build a colony here and make a happy home for my little creepy family that does not work so well for you." So when we eat these things, sometimes we're eating or putting them on our bodies. Sometimes we're doing them specifically for our 50 trillion cells, and sometimes we're doing
Mhm.
them for our helpful friends.
Mhm. And our helpful friends are vying for real estate down there. And it's kind of like that saying of like, how do you know when you're helping yourself and you're doing good? Do you feed to the black dog or the white dog? And I don't like particularly the fact that we're naming something bad being black. It could be purple, it could be green. But the more we feed, the more condominiums they get to make and make their little families. and that sends messages to our brain that we're making more neurotransmitters down there, and we get happier.
Yes. So we are if we are conscious about what feeds, for example, if we're eating too much sugar, we are often feeding we're either feeding our good critters in ways that create an imbalance,
Mm-hmm.
or we're feeding our bad critters. And
Mm-hmm.
so and I have a memory of talking about this one time on Facebook, and saying that when you eat sugar, it's really important to have fiber, because sugar comes from a very fibrous plant. And so it would make
Yes.
sense that if you are
Mm-hmm.
taking sugar in, that your
Mm-hmm.
body understands how to use it better with the fiber. And one of my girlfriends wrote, "Are you trying to tell us that every time we have a cocktail, we should eat a Wassa cracker?" And I said, "Well, that hadn't been my original plan, but yeah, why not?" So
Yes.
we have, yeah, and
So
whatever we do to find the path to learn more about how to create more balance instead of less is very
yes,
powerful.
and part of that creating balance is first of all listening, perceiving. So to
Being
clear
curious.
out some being
Before
curious.
perceiving is to have the
Mhm.
curiosity to know more.
Yes. And then also to have the clear mindedness to be able to recognize, oh, this is great for me, or hmm, that's not so great.
Yeah.
And what are some of the ways you personally get clarity? What's your self care?
Um, well, as far as food goes, if I have eaten a less balanced diet, I have a tendency to go and get a raw vegetable from the fridge or from the garden,
Hmm.
and just make sure I'm getting all those fresh living enzymes into my system, and my body will have a better chance of reorganizing itself.
Hmm.
I also have superfoods and whole food nutrition mixed into my seasonings, so we use those
Wonderful,
regularly.
wonderful. And then
Sensational
that's it, like
seasonings.
yeah, that's like a tiny baby step that can do so much.
Yes. So these little things are just to say, oh, I had a lot more of something than I really know that I'm a little out of balance there. And so,
Hmm.
if I eat too much meat, then I need to have more fibrous fruits and vegetables.
Hmm.
If I eat too many vegetables, that doesn't happen usually, but then I need to do something that will help with flatulence. So I eat more grounding
Hmm.
carbs, maybe. Would you agree with that answer?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And I think every time you add like a new vegetable that you're not familiar with, we have to kind of think like, what did we do with our kids? We started out just giving them like a little bit, a teaspoon of it, and see how it affected their whole system. And then the next time we would give them two, and then we would like give them a little break so that they couldn't develop any either allergenic or resistive
So they don't
microbiome
get
stuff.
triggered.
Yes, exactly. And
We
we could
want
do
to
the
say
same with
hello to
ourselves.
the computer. We want to say
Say
hello.
hello.
Hello, computer.
Yes.
Let me introduce a topic to you. Open a file and start
Mhm.
working on understanding this, as opposed
Yes.
to flood.
Yes, because it will either shut down or it will rebel with either throwing up or diarrhea.
Yes.
And we don't want
You
either one of those.
No, they are both unpleasant and a sign of imbalance.
Hmm. Yes. And
You
how
hadn't.
about the breathing? What kind of things?
Oh, yeah. So breath work is incredibly powerful, and something that I believe we should be teaching in nursery school, and every year should be developing another layer of complexity in the understanding and the practice and the normalization of breath work. Because,
Yes,
first of all, it's got to be done. We might as well pay attention to how we do
we're
it.
breathing anyway,
Right.
but not always correctly.
Right. And then the other thing is that we are designed for it to be physical exercise. Our
Mm-hmm.
torso balloon is what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
Our torso balloon, if we shallowly breathe, then the elasticization of our torso balloon starts stiffening more and
Mm-hmm.
more and more and more. And that is
Mm-hmm.
why a lot of people feel that it is inevitable that life sucks when you're 70 and you're stiff and you're achy and everything hurts. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely not true
Not true.
unless you employ a non-embodied Western mindset
Yes,
and you
and you
focus
have
on accomplishing with your
mhm,
body, but not taking care
four.
of your machine. Yes, not for your body.
Mhm,
Exactly.
mhm, mhm. And
What
the
do you,
other thing I find
yeah.
the other thing I find is that well, one of the ones I like is particularly for children and families is we do that just simple straw breath where you just
Mm,
breathe in as much as you can and using your expanding your belly so that you give some elasticity to that diaphragmic whole center that we have. And then when you let it out, you just let it out as if you're going through a little straw, like this, very slowly. And with children, we call it the kissy breath because we're doing
oh,
this.
I
So
I
parents
learned
who are
one.
having,
Have you
huh?
ever heard of smell the flower, blow out the cake candles? That's what I learned
No, but
at
let me.
nursery school. So you smell the flower
Okay.
and you blow out the
Hmm.
candles.
Oh, good.
Isn't
Perfect.
that
Perfect.
lovely?
Because this one, both of them work for parents who are overloaded, overwhelmed. They're in the kitchen trying to make dinner, and there's three little ones running around screaming, having fights, not pulling out their toys, and they're trying to
Totally.
manage dinner with all this chaos. And
Yes.
so sometimes mothers are doing the straw breath or the
Plus, they're
flower
holding a
balloon
tool.
thing. Yes, yes. And then
Yes.
they have to
Props.
stop and say, "Okay, kids, it's time for kissy breath." Bring all the kids over
Such a
and
cute name.
give them the kissy breath technique, and it really helps slow them down.
Well, one can
So,
create some amazing rituals. Um, One can create some really amazing rituals where they know that when dinner is being prepared, it's time for
mhm,
kissy breathing. It's time
yes,
for stretching. It's time for
mhm,
laying on the floor and imagining what the clouds look like. It's something that,
yes,
yes, I
yes,
find it very exciting when parents figure out how to model
mhm,
self-regulation and then teach it
mhm,
as the most normal thing in the world.
yes, and even lying on the floor, just like letting your whole body touch the floor and looking up. And even if you don't have a cloud in front of you, just sort of imagine and daydream. We want
Yes.
children to daydream because then their creative process really gets in there. And it
Yes.
gives them their own sense of self that they're empowered to create something on their own.
Yes. Well, and that they are their own generator of things. Yes.
Yes, instead of
Yes, I love
something
that.
external like those things.
Yes. Entertain
Those
me, phone.
things. Yes, I don't know what
You
to
know,
do. I'm bored.
you were talking about laying on the floor.
Mhm,
I actually made that a regular part of my self care when I was at my highest levels of pain. I had spinal surgery and
mhm,
abdominal surgeries. So I've been structurally altered. So when I
mhm,
got stressed out and I did not feel worthy of self
mhm,
care, then I would feel guilty when I took care of myself. So I was
mhm,
minimizing the value of what I was doing. But laying on the floor, I encouraged a lot of my clients to lay on the kitchen floor for 2 to 3 minutes because of
mhm,
two things. One is exactly what you were just saying, that just laying there and being still and letting yourself have this relationship with gravity. I like to call it being a Dr. Sally pat of butter on a floor piece of hot toast. And your
Oh,
job
wonderful.
is
Love
to
that.
watch the
Love that.
melting. And so, one of the things you
Yes.
can ask yourself each time in a playful way
Hmm.
is, I wonder which side of my face my nose will drip off of this time. And I wonder how fast my ears will drip down versus, and when we
Hmm.
watch which parts are melting quickly and which parts are melting slowly, we start to get some intuitive ideas. But the
Hmm.
other thing, the other thing, not but, the other thing is that the hard floor makes you feel your scaffolding. And
Hmm.
therefore, you know where your bones are, and you get a deeper sense of proprioception. You know where you
Yes.
are, and therefore, a
Hmm.
part that maybe you are unable to connect with personally, you
Hmm.
can't quite get the hello in there, hi
Hmm.
shoulder, oh,
Hmm.
I have that frozen shoulder. Oh,
Hmm.
but the way that my shoulder blade is pressing against the ground
Hmm.
is giving me a new sense of where my humerus bone sits
Is.
in my shoulder.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
therefore, then all of a sudden, I start feeling my ribs differently. And then I make a
Hmm.
micro adjustment and I realize that my shoulder and my pelvis are playing together with a different
Hmm.
understanding. And then,
Hmm.
adjust again and, something else. And you can actually learn to give yourself chiropractic adjustments by melting the musculature and the
Hmm.
soft tissue, just like they do when they manipulate the soft
Hmm.
tissue and then invite the bone to shift back into place. It's also delicious
Hmm.
and makes me feel like a badass. I feel like I know this body and I'm
Hmm.
using what I
Hmm.
got. And it's pretty cool that it's self healing.
Also, too, I think for kids, when they're lying flat and the floor might be a little chilly, depending on where you are, what you're doing, and that just actually feeling that chilliness,
Temperature shift.
yes, throughout their whole body, even like the back of their calves and their heels, and how it feels to connect with something outside of yourself, but also inside yourself. You're connecting with
Yes.
all your insides. What's going on? Oh, my gut's gurgling. What did I eat? You're sort of like having this conversation with your body, which makes you more aware of things that are going on. And if we can teach that to children, whoa,
Yeah. And more
amazing stuff.
empowered because you're having that. I
Hmm.
mean, I love that you brought that up because I think the ultimate goal of practicing self-care is to have the ability to be in first person, second person, and third person perspectives at the
Hmm.
same time, which means then we can intuitively assess our environment internally and externally and adjust even better, adjust masterfully to what is needed now versus what
Hmm.
was needed a minute ago.
Yes, yes, and the just the shift, the tiny little micro shifts that you mentioned, particularly in shoulders, for us computer nerdy people who are like sitting like this all the time. Your
Yeah.
your your cervical vertebrae and your occipital bone, when it presses back, and also you that sort of humpy thing you get down
Yes, the
below
hump
if
can
you're not.
form if we lean forward too much. That's a sign of
Yes.
wanting to be in the future as opposed to allowing
Mhm.
oneself to be in the
Mhm.
now.
Yeah. When I was little, my mom used to say, if I was sitting at the table, my parents were really great on posture. My dad would say things to me when I was sitting in the car. It's like, sit up straight. Your body wants you to sit up straight. And we called it stacking our blocks. We
I
did
love
this in
that.
school too, because when you're standing up, you've got your pelvic girdle that's carrying your torso, and then you have your shoulder girdle, where your head is supposed to rest on top of it. So when you're standing, you're really stacking your blocks
We
because your
really are
head
stacking
weighs,
blocks.
yeah, it weighs over 3 pounds. And
Even our
our
jaws,
vertebrae,
yes.
yes, weren't made to carry our heads around like this.
And if we
They were
think
made to,
about the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and when the blocks are
yes,
stacked straight, it lasts forever. Now, the Leaning Tower of Pisa is a little bit leaned, but it's not
mm-hmm,
super off that it'll crumble.
mm-hmm,
But if you get those blocks all at
mm-hmm,
different spots, you have a much weaker system, a much weaker
yes,
building.
yes, yes. And so just getting our building blocks stacked, and just it makes the whole nervous system work more uniformly, and
Yes, it
the nervous
allows the
system.
electricity and the chemical
Mhm,
trails to do what they need to
mhm.
do.
Oh, yes,
Uh,
yes.
and you're also, when you're talking about stacking your blocks, it's also we're back to the breath work now, because
Mhm,
if our blocks are off and they're not stacked right on top of each other,
mhm,
breathing creates an expansion that allows then gravity to put them back together when we.
mhm,
So I teach a style of breath work that includes holding one's breath
mhm,
and being passive about holding. How lazy can you be holding the breath?
mhm.
And then releasing the breath without the straw in this case,
Yes.
and
Mhm.
being as lazy. So the term is surrender.
Right.
We want to
Ye
surrender, and we want to practice
mhm.
allowing nature to work for us. The laws of
Yes.
physics are working whether we want to fight them or dance with them.
Mhm,
And I would much
mhm.
rather have dancing than war. So
Yes.
I want to practice getting out of my need to control while
Mhm.
still being sovereign in the fact that
Yes.
I am controlling the breath work journey. But that
Mhm.
moment is about releasing the breath and letting gravity put us back together, stacking our blocks together.
Yes, and we were we were created with gravity in mind.
Without a doubt. How
Our
could we
whole
not?
our structure is related to that. So when we have astronauts that go off to places that are weightless, one of the things that have to be attended to is how do you keep telling the bones to keep making chondrites? Because literally you can leach out all your good stuff if you don't put pressure on those bones. So the astronauts have to do special exercises and wear
Yes.
clunky shoes that are
Weight
weighted so
bearing,
that they don't
weight bearing
lose
health.
that
What are
weight bearing health.
chondrites for
Yes,
everyone,
definitely.
please? What are chondrites for everyone,
Chond-
please?
chondrites are the cells that create bone. Like chondroitin is a substance we give to ourselves to make more bone that we're feeding the bones. So chondrites really create are the cells that create bone.
Awesome. Are
And
they
so
formed in
so
the
we're giving them
marrow?
a message.
Are they built?
Yes,
Are they created in the marrow?
virtually they're created from every stem cell. And back to your gut, if you don't eat after 8 p.m. and or either fast for a day, we create more stem cells in the gut. And the gut sends those stem cells to the places that need repair.
I mean,
So the
we're
stem
so
so the
well designed, and our culture is not encouraging what
uh,
is at all. It's
and
amazing
yes,
how well we're
yes.
designed.
And we're
So that's
learning
why
more
we're
and
here.
more and
That's why we're having
more.
this conversation.
Yes, we're learning more every month of like all these things, how they integrate and how they're all part of each other, and how if you make a tiny shift, it helps you in another area. So I tell people just if you're 100 pounds overweight, just lose 5 pounds,
Yeah.
and you get start to get a formula. Then you lose another 5 pounds, and you use the
And if
same
you're a
formula.
shallow breather, just start
Mm-hmm.
with 5 minutes throughout the course of the whole day. Do 1 minute at a time.
Mm-hmm.
I say five cycles of the breath, because I think that the first one, you're just following orders. The second
Yes.
one, you're starting to go, oh, I'm doing something. The third
Mm-hmm.
one is, oh, okay, I think I'm starting to connect to the flow of what I'm doing. And then the
Mm-hmm.
last two are where you can really be with
Own
the
it.
process.
Own it. Mm-hmm. It's my technique now because it's fully
Yes.
embodied in me.
And when we allow ourselves to do things that are repetitious, walking is a repetitious
Mm-hmm.
process, and
Mm-hmm.
we can bring our brains and our bodies together in such a way that I call it sacred play, where we
Mm-hmm.
are honoring the monotony and the
Mm-hmm.
fresh moment at the same time. So it's same but
Mm-hmm.
different every time. That sameness allows us to notice details that we don't normally pick up on
Mm-hmm.
because it's creating a new baseline for what's normal.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get to see the little details that we wouldn't see if we took 10 steps.
Yes, and I encourage that when we do our outside nature walking because we need green really desperately to be
Yes.
healthy. That when you're walking, that you find something that stays there all the time. It could be a big tree, it could be a pretty bush that blooms, and you notice what it looks like each time you go by it. So you get this
Yeah.
relationship with that natural object and notice how it changes leaves, blooms,
What's
whatever.
growing
Uh,
underneath it?
yes. Has it been trimmed? Uh, do, did people commit crepe murder by chopping them off too much? Yeah, all those things we notice, and then we start to become more noticing of every other thing around, and that takes us to relationships. Because if you can notice your environment, you can notice when someone in your environment is a little different, and you start
Well,
to be
and
curious.
curious is the key word. And
Mm-hmm.
and when we don't do this practice, it's very easy, especially in the information age where we're being bombarded with distractions and opportunities to squirrel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it is very easy to numb out and only
Mm-hmm.
notice what's trouble or perceived trouble. And then
Mm-hmm.
we completely stop noticing the magic of
Mm-hmm.
what's good. So I have a new technique that I'm encouraging people to play with, the freedom model. For when you
Mm-hmm.
are loving what you're doing, this feels
Yes.
good. If I could have
Yes.
more of this
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Mm-hmm.
across my life, I would
Mm-hmm.
be happy. We have to take time to memorize it, store it, add more details to the file up there.
Celebration.
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 So the freedom model
Mm-hmm.
is first to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is to um, is to reflect upon it. So that says,
Mm-hmm.
what did I just experience? What am I experiencing? And that gets your unconscious brain and your conscious brain to be engaging together. Then we
Mm-hmm.
want to express it. And then we want to
Mm-hmm.
engage it with a little bit more tenacity.
Mm-hmm.
The next step is to dig deeper,
Mm-hmm.
find out what else is there. What else is there?
Mm-hmm.
What else
Mm-hmm.
is juicy and lovely and delicious? And then
And then we
optimize.
say,
Go ahead.
yes, we then we're saying like, we love this. We love
Yes.
this.
How can I make what I'm experiencing even more juicy, delicious? What micro changes can I make? That's the
Mm-hmm.
optimize. And the last part
Mm-hmm.
is developing that mastery.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is a fantastic breakdown of how to empower the people and to let them change their own personal narrative from the poor me, look at me, give me some feedback, and give me some neurotransmitter surge so that I get addicted to that narrative and
Yeah.
letting go
So
of that narrative.
that brain plasticity is so
Mm-hmm.
key in all of this, in that We only pay attention to what it is we're used to paying attention to because we built highways that got faster
Mhm.
between the things that we're tracking. So if we have a
Mhm.
tendency to worry and only pay attention to what we worry, then we have
Mhm.
built worry highways throughout our whole
Ye
brain. If we are
yes.
pleasure seekers and
Mhm.
adventurers, then we only are tracking what gives us pleasure and adventure. Somewhere in the middle of everything, we need
Mhm.
a balance. But most of the time in our hypercritical society, we are too easily aroused by what's not working and not aroused enough, except for our
Mhm.
favorite two or three or four in
Mhm.
arenas. But those aren't necessarily what make everything better. There are our crack, so to speak. Boy, do
Mhm.
I love dark
Mhm.
chocolate, and I really do. But if I make
Yes.
dark chocolate more important than feeling the deliciousness of a
Mhm.
satisfying moment in my environment, in my
Mhm.
relationships, in my
Mhm.
experiences beyond just that food, then I become a richer, more capacitated, delighted, excited to journey person.
Mhm. Well, we're reaching the end of our time together, but I see many more conversations coming.
Beautiful.
And if our um, if the persons who are watching today take a look at the bottom, they're both our websites are on the bottom. And in the show notes for this particular podcast, there'll also be your website so they can take a look at some of the items that you have that really have helped you along the way.
And
And I,
we'll put a coupon for them too. We'll give a discount code for your viewers, 10% off anything on the website.
oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
This has been so wonderful just to be able to talk to you, Lisa. You know, Lisa and I have a relationship in another venue, and we've just sort of like really started really liking what each other does. And so it really comes together great in this conversation, and so many more exploratory things are going to be coming up. So Lisa, do you have a final thing you'd like to tell people, a final
Well,
little tip?
I have a call to action, which is if you found anything in this conversation that was exciting that you would like us to unpack, please share that in the comments, and we will address those in future visits. And the last thing that I want to
Okay.
say to right, and the last thing that I'd love
Mhm, yeah.
to share with everyone is just remember that you are awesome. You are awesomely made. You are
Yes.
designed to be vibrant, even if you're not now, and
Mhm.
that there is more possible than we are taught. So believe in yourself, get really curious, and try the freedom method.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you joining me today, and we will have more conversations. Goodbye,
Thank you so
Lisa.
much for
Thank
having me,
you.
Dr. Sound.
Thank you.